Your experience discovered that the Sol 6 required more burn-in
and we
than
knew
some
that.
of the others.
Yeah.
Now, bringing it back to the method, it is you've found requiring less burn-in.
Yeah, it was designed to have less burn-in.
Talk about how much burn-in are these getting before they ship, and why is that different?
So these get 12 hours of near destructive levels of play and 12 hours of normal home 1 watt into it kind of a play. 1 watt into this is going to be how most people
94
listen to
dB.
this. Yeah. And then they're ready to go. What you got, I had put those were
pre-production.
The pre-production, which don't quite sound as good as the production. You can comment later in another video, but those were put together with razor blades, so those drivers were literally kind of scabbed together, so they don't. When you do that kind of stuff, it's always easier when you know where you want to go. It's easier to do it in production because you're more every step. You're more careful. I'm going to consider how I do this. If you're doing one-off and I've got razor blades and super glue and urethane glue in my hand and epoxy, I'm going to just make it happen. So it's it's like 80% is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
In production, I think we borderline on sabotage. We're over 95%. Hey, this has to be this way. So like the burn-in, it hurts. That amount of burn-in, we have, you've been to the other shop, so that we have a room this size that is just speakers stacked on top of each other with microcloth between them to try to get all that stuff burning in. It's expensive, and you also risk the chance of, while it's in one corner of the area of the shop that doesn't get traffic, still, Garrett, who's usually hooking stuff up, stuff happens. He can scratch something, which means, well, that one gets pulled, it gets redone.
Yeah,
so we have a little bit of loss
involved,
there. Yeah. We wanted to be able to scale a product. We wanted to get more people into good sound. A bookshelf can be sent all over the world for not a great deal of money. We're doing quotes for people. Pairs going to Czechoslovakia, and it was Czech Republic. Right, I'm old.
Yeah, with you.
Yeah, it's I think the quote was $175 for a pair plus maybe another $80 for some duties and taxes. Right, so it was pretty reasonable. That's what the goal is on this, and we don't want, if we sit on it and have to burn it and we have to put $40 in electricity into it, coordinate it for 6 weeks, have it take up floor space for 6 weeks, figure out it gets expensive. So we left all the nanomaterials off. The membrane on this is 90% cotton, so it's just a cotton.
It's a paper cone primary driver.
Yep. And we didn't get too fancy with trying to do underhung gaps and figuring out how to get maximum energy into the flux or into the voice coil to make that whole thing really efficient. We just got close enough. The spider is a little bit looser, so the surround's got a few more pleats than we're normally putting in it, and then the spider in the back is also a little bit looser, so those mechanical things break in quickly, so the cone itself breaks in quickly. Electrical, we stayed away from Teflon exclusively, so there's no Teflon in this product. Teflon has got it's got a very strange behavior. We talked about this in the previous one. Yeah. I can get into it if you want me to, but it's kind of esoteric stuff.
Yeah, well, let's bring it back to the difference. So, like, I have your DW6 base model, and on the DW6 that a lot of people are familiar with, you've got a base model, a Superfly, and a Supreme. And the Supreme, I think, gets 300 hours of burn-in, and the Superfly 200 hours, and the base 100 hours.
Yeah.
But you, during the design process, intentionally were designing this so that it was not going to need 100+ hours of burn-in. So this is going to get 24 hours of burn-in before shipping. Now that ties into, these are also not sold with a Superfly or a Supreme option available, and you have been telling me there's a reason why that is. So speak to why it does not need the Superfly or Supreme options.
Yep, so I was looking at, so a lot of the parts, I haven't really stayed current for the last 10 years on really what's happening in cutting edge for components within.
Right, you went into aerospace and networking and EV and
computer. So all the modern big industry stuff, how are they solving their filter problems? Everybody needs capacitors, everybody needs inductors. where is this current state of the art? And I was turned on to a little bit of some of the interesting stuff that was going on there from the Rupert Neve design group. And they was like, yeah, some of these new organic polymer caps are pretty killer, and they're a lot more affordable. Check them out. So I started checking those out, a while ago, but that led me in a certain path. So I was trying a bunch of different things with the eye on, well, what can I do for the same performance level for less cost, smaller package, or what can I do for the same cost but at a higher performance level? That's kind of the criteria. Simple, parsing of what I'm keeping, what I'm throwing out. In that process, I was finding that these newer parts changed very little with burn-in. Some I didn't even notice any difference in the filtering parts. So the high-pass network that's on the tweeter, that's coaxially mounted, those parts changed so little with burn-in that I would be in that camp. If that was my experience, I would be in the camp that there is no burn-in, or so little that who cares. But again, we don't have a lot of parts going on in this. There's 4 parts, a resistor, an inductor, and 2 capacitors for that high pass network. There's nothing on the full range, or on the primary driver. There's no filters.
Right.
So there's not like there's a lot of parts there that need to burn in anyway. But also being simple, you can hear pretty deeply into the parts that exist. And so
with the capacitors and inductors that you were utilizing here, coming from not pro or high-end audio, but aerospace and networking and switching and EV, etc., you don't have this, do these have Jupiter caps or,
they are what they are.
Right.
And so a lot of the changes in our in our other speakers for the different lines is a connector difference. There's, we give you an option to utilize our cable internally. Our cable geometry is called B3, and it has a certain electromagnetic profile. And to maintain that electrical profile, because there is no filter, it goes right to the full range driver. So you can have this. We use a Neutrik 8-pole, configured in a non-traditional way, but it's published. It's not proprietary. Published in all the owner's manuals, and you can maintain that characteristic impedance and other electrical properties through the bulkhead into our cable. And then also you get reduced contact resistance because you got 3 contacts per pole. So we were doing this, but you also had a 3-foot long umbilical inside the loudspeaker, because we're all about floor standing loudspeakers.
In floor standings, and in the bookshelf, the cable
exist.
length is so
16
short.
inches.
It doesn't have the benefit of upgrading the cable and the cable harness like on a 3-foot tall floor stand.
Yeah. So we weren't really hearing a difference, not much of one, and the complexity was just as high, but the benefit was pretty low. So it was decided, hey, this is a one. There's no upgrade path for this. This is our best foot forward for this price target.
So
I was just doing mine way behind.
Oh,
hi Ray.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh, do you want me to flip your light on?
Yeah, let me. I got it. I'm just gonna throw another battery onto it. So, tell me more about. Even though I'm off camera, the mic.
Yeah, I can be filler.
Is still here. Tell me more about the. So. All right. Sorry.
Yeah.
I need my notes to ask my.
I can take the dead air if you want. So we really did like the idea of being able to pre-produce this speaker, because our efficiencies go up. And with those increased efficiencies, we can keep price reasonable, and we can have stuff that's boxed up ready to ship, as opposed to telling our customers, hey, this is going to ship in, it's December. This is going to ship in October of next year. And having them like, what? 10 months? Is that a joke? No, we just really suck at some stuff, and this is the nature of it. So we hate that conversation. So these products hopefully will be able to be really manufacturable and go in a warehouse, and we can ship from the warehouse, as opposed to coordinating production for orders.
So now I remember what I was going to ask is how this we're talking about the changes in burn-in and not having Superfly and Supreme. I think for a lot of consumers who love ZU, you come in with the decision. It's like, all right, do I want to get the base model? Do I want to spend more for the Supreme? Do I go in the middle with the Superfly? And then you've got color and finish options and veneers and etc. So ordering for your other ZU speakers can have a lot of financial decisions that we're all like, what do we value? What it looks like, what it sounds like, where we, and for the DIY types, you can buy the base and then later order, the upgrades, to a Superfly or a Supreme, and that's interesting. But the method, because it's a stand mount, it's a bookshelf, it's smaller, it's less expensive, more affordable. Now you can kind of get the financial calculus. Do I want to spend a little money and make these stand mounts look really gorgeous? And we talked about this mercury flake, I forget how you phrase it, finish in the burnt orange for Steve Guttenberg's. And I asked you about, because I'm thinking this way, about a black option in this same finish. And you were telling me some of what, and you're like, well, black is complex.
Yeah. So this finish, so we developed this in house. A lot of our finishes are developed in house, but we do use a lot of automotive stuff. We use there's a product out of Germany that we really like for the mats called Nextel. Mankiewicz is the parent company, and this uses a conversion varnish, but it also uses PPG metal-based dyes as a candy layer, and then we're also using metal flake within one of the substrates, and to get this. So I don't know if it's coming through on camera.
I think the light helps,
but it kind of has this iridescent, as certain light wavelengths at certain angles hit it, it'll dance without being disco.
Right.
And so that iridescent
it's
quality.
got that subtle, I refer to it as depth. It's not like teenager glitter.
Right.
It's not that 13-year-old girl, glitter on her cell phone. It's from a distance, it looks like the burnt orange color matte, and then in good light, when you look closely, it just has this three-dimensional depth, and you see the metal flake.
Yeah, and then we also wanted, so the optical quality, a lot of that comes from the final finish, how flat the final finish is. So we wanted a flat finish. We wanted a really level finish that had good spectral, so it reflected, like if I'm looking at your reflection, it's not distorted, but we didn't want the reflection, so we wanted a satin finish, but we still wanted that flatness of reflection. To get that was kind of tough. In the automotive world, they have some mats that they say do that, and we've tried them for the last 15, 20 years. They suck. If you rub on them with your hand, they gloss out. It's just terrible. You get any oil on it, and the oil gets absorbed into the mat pores, and then it's glossy, and it's almost impossible to make it go back matte again. So we have this finish where it's still totally flat. There's no orange peel in it. And then it's super durable. I mean, I'm manhandling this, and I'm not worried that I'm going to make a mark.
I don't see any fingerprints.
Yeah. The fingerprints might show a little bit. They wipe off, and they don't gloss off. They don't gloss the material up. So to get black, okay. So things that are transparent or translucent, or light can go through them, and it only absorbs certain wavelengths. It's easy to do. So candies are easy. So we can do about any candy finish.
Candies like red, green.
Yeah, any of they call them candies because all the old hard candy colors that you can think of, everything in the rainbow is, you can do a candy layer in anything in the rainbow, but black isn't in the rainbow, and silver isn't in the rainbow either. So while the silver mercury is one that we've made famous, and we just called it mercury, but it's without any candy layer. But when we put the candy layers, it's still a mercury, that silver iridescent quality, but now with the candy layer to give it the hue that you want. Black, if you do black dye as opposed to a black pigment, you get this purple hue. So if you've seen anodizing that's
looks like
been in the
deep
sun,
purple. That in
Right.
one light it looks black, and then you look, it's like, no, this isn't really black.
Yeah, so those Sharpie, Sharpies are basically a dye type of material, not a pigment type of material. We can do this in black, but the process is totally different. So you want a pair in black. I'm going to do a pair in black. I don't know how much it costs yet. He's going to find out. But we can, and the process, instead of doing the iridescent quality underneath the candy, the black has to be underneath. So it has to be a black pigment, and then you do the iridescent over the top of the black. And then you may tint, depending on how we get there. But then we may use like really fine carbon powder as mixed in with that like a candy layer to also keep it so it doesn't look like silver, like a black metallic car. We don't want it to look like a black metallic car. So we're going to have to blend some powder, some of those carbon powders into that like a candy layer to tone that down, to give it that iridescent quality, but with it being kind of muted. And then over the top of that, it gets the top coats, which is the whole thing.
You don't get this at Best Buy with mass market products. This is what a high-end boutique hi-fi manufacturer can give you. And if you've seen most of my videos that I do at home, I get all this great natural sunlight and that goes on the KEF LS50 META, and I think the mercury candy underflake in that black when the sun hits it would look really stunning. So
right on.
We may find out.
Yeah, we'll try it. See,
We'll
yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Well, as always, when you and I get talking, we've gone longer than I intended, but I find it fascinating. I hope viewers find it fascinating. I will edit this into smaller chunks for us to put out. But Sean, you've been so generous with your time.
Oh, it's fun. Thanks.
And it's so cool that this is ZU's first bookshelf speaker. It's doing some different things than all of us that have been fans of ZU and may have some ZU speakers done before, while maintaining the high efficiency, the high dynamic, the things that we know and think about when we think of ZU audio. And I really appreciate it. The information I have found it fascinating. Thank you so much, John.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
This time, hopefully, I'm stopping it intentionally.